Drinking water is our most important resource. In the future, however, it may become more difficult to get access to clean water, even in Sweden. There are many potential threats to the integrity of the drinking water production chain and the distribution of clean water, and it is up to each local authority to find solutions to these challenges. But how do we know what is correct? We want to find sustainable solutions that we can proudly show our children and grandchildren. This film points out some of the most important issues and how we can resolve them to ensure safe drinking water for the future. Let's start with raw water. There are two types of raw water used to produce drinking water: groundwater and surface water. Both types are derived from rain, which either seeps down to underground streams and reservoirs or finds its way to rivers and lakes. Sweden has an excellent supply of good raw water owing to the last ice age. The ice age formed lakes, valleys and layers of gravel and sand, which work as natural filters. There are three major ways to produce drinking water. Sometimes you take surface water from a lake, river or stream and treat it at a water treatment plant as required. Groundwater, on the other hand, is pumped up from the ground and most often doesn't require as much treatment as surface water. Sometimes artificial groundwater is produced before treatment by filtering surface water through various layers of gravel and sand. We need to make sure that we don't pollute our wonderful water, as the water is given to us on loan. It's important that we purify what we use before we let it go back to nature. Wastewater can be purified in several different ways before it reaches your tap. Water enables schools and hospitals to function. Industry and commerce depend on water as well. The food industry and agriculture need clean water. We also need clean water to stay healthy and be able to go to work and to school. In the end, our society depends on us, not computers. That's why clean water is needed every day, all year round. About 100 years ago, water treatment plants and piping systems were built for the growing towns and cities. At that time, people realised how important water was to protect them from illnesses and disease, not least from cholera, which was widespread in more densely populated areas. Some of the infrastructure is still in use today. However, the more clean water we've pumped out, the more wastewater has been produced. It wasn't until the 1960s that wastewater treatment plants were established on a large scale. Many of those plants are still in operation, and it's important that we regularly check and upgrade these systems. 8 million people are currently connected to the authority's water and wastewater system. There is a tendency towards building larger and more efficient plants to produce clean drinking water and to take care of the wastewater. At the same time as this reduces operating expenses and to some extent improves the reliability of individual plants, it may also cause more damage if something unexpected happens. It means one single sick person can infect thousands of others. The Ice Age gave us fantastic supplies of groundwater. The glaciofluvial eskers that were created are the best aquifers we have in this country, with clean, easy-flowing water in abundance. But there's a downside as well. The underground aquifers are easily penetrated by chemicals. Chemicals can seep through the porous ground in minutes. Masses of soil may have to be removed quickly, but what if it's simply not possible to dig at that particular spot? A groundwater subsystem may be destroyed for generations to come. Surface water is also susceptible to accidents. For example, if roads run on ridges or along watercourses, lakes, rivers and streams, surface water is at least as susceptible as groundwater and is often a raw water source to larger populations. For example, 2 million people get their water from Lake Mälaren. What would it cost if Lake Mälaren were contaminated? How would 2 million people get their drinking water? Nobody knows exactly how many people fall ill due to pathogenic microorganisms in the drinking water in Sweden each year. Usually only large outbreaks are detected, but it is possible that many smaller outbreaks remain undetected, and together these may have a major impact on public health. In 2008, a small Swedish authority with 13,000 inhabitants was affected. 2,400 people fell ill with winter vomiting disease due to a drop in drinking water quality. What would that mean in a larger authority? It is not a problem confined to developing countries. Milwaukee in the USA was affected by the Cryptosporidium parasite some years before that. About 400,000 people fell ill. In Sweden, we have had a couple of larger outbreaks stemming from Cryptosporidium. In these two outbreaks, at least 47,000 people fell ill. In general, Sweden is likely to be quite well prepared for climate change, but we can expect larger amounts of rain and a higher frequency of extreme weather, which has implications for our drinking water supply system. Increased precipitation affects purification plants, which become overburdened and more pathogenic microorganisms are released. Heavy rain may also cause landslides that may destroy the distribution system and piping networks. Did you know that many of the country's local authorities lack reserve water supplies and backup solutions in case of an accident? This means that if a water source becomes contaminated, there is no alternative but for tankers to deliver drinking water from a distant water source. This is an expensive and very short-term solution. There have been occasions in Sweden when we've seen a threat become reality and cause enormous problems both economically and to public health. What would happen if two things were to strike at the same time? An autumn of record rainfall? A broken dam? A purification plant overflowing? A waterborne illness raging? Water supplies becoming contaminated one after the other? How can we build a robust system that's capable of withstanding threats? We, who plan for our society, are those who can protect our drinking water in the long term. It's not particularly difficult or particularly expensive compared with the cost related to a waterborne outbreak or a damaged water resource. A good way to start is to plan smart and think about the water cycle, how activities in society actually affect water quality. We also need to make people in our organisations understand how important clean drinking water is, how it is produced, and in what ways it is a vulnerable resource. We need to work harder to protect our water resources now and for the future. We are part of a chain of people with responsibilities and competence at all levels. The most important role is played by you in the local authorities, both politicians and civil servants. You are the ones who can develop strategies and put them into practice. Does this sound expensive and difficult? According to the legislation, local authorities must provide adequate resources for providing drinking water that is clean, and government agencies must support local authorities in this task. So make demands. We must prioritise the provision of drinking water because it is one of society's most important infrastructures, if not the most important. There is help at hand for local authorities. Government agencies can provide guidance and must contribute basic data for planning. Associations, such as the Swedish Water and Wastewater Association, Svensk Vatten, and also the Swedish Association of Local Authorities, SKL, are able to provide support and tools. Universities and colleges provide knowledge and expertise. In addition, there are excellent examples of how neighbouring local authorities can help one another. Regional projects have meant that certain local authorities are better equipped for producing clean water and are well prepared to handle a crisis. It's not just neighbouring local authorities that can help one another. The Swedish Network for Drinking Water provides the means for countrywide cooperation and collaboration. It's time to move from theory on paper to reality. What we're doing now is safeguarding our country's water resources by protecting our water supplies. New built-up areas and roads are located at a safe distance from water supplies, prioritised for the production of safe drinking water, both now and for the future. We need to identify new water supplies if the need arises and strengthen the capacity of the entire system. We should schedule upgrades of our purification plants and distribution systems. We must create water protection areas for our important water sources, both for the current and future needs. Acting in good time means that we can save a lot of money in the future. Everything is possible if you don't have to do it alone. Now it's time for all of us who work with spatial planning to raise the bar in terms of water. We must conduct analysis and planning and ensure that plans are carried out. Spread knowledge among the general public. In order for words to be backed by vigorous action, more people need to understand this message. Water, and especially drinking water, is essential. Talk to your colleagues and show this film to others.